Well, we've actually already answered a lot of these other ones. What are your hopes and dreams moving forward for the podcast?
Blah, blah, blah. Hopes and dreams, blah, blah, blah.
Yada, yada. Yada, yada.
Blah, 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 blah.
A lot of yada, yada.
Blah, blah.
Do you want me to be silly or do you want me to be serious?
Serious.
Okay, I won't be silly. I want you to chase your dreams just like I have dared to chase mine. And even if you go for the moon and land in the stars, at least they're surrounded by stars. Whee!
Wait, but which way does it go? Let's just get both, just in case. Okay, 100. Woo! Okay, thank you for coming to the 100th episode of the MeMeCherry's Unfortunate Events Podcast.
MeMeCherry presents a series of fortunate events. Fortunate events. Fortunate events. A series of fortunate events.
Welcome. Welcome.
And welcome to the 100th episode of the series of Fortunate Events Podcast.
Period. We are here with the one and only MeMeCherry, who has done such an amazing 100 episodes of an amazing podcast. Congratulations, MeMeCherry.
Congratulations. Can't believe you're 100 years old today.
The baby goes to college.
No, finally.
Aww.
And who are you?
I'm Mama Celeste.
And I'm also Mama Celeste.
And we are Mama
Mama
Celeste.
And I'm Florida man. And now you see why, if you play the drinking game, you are very drunk already off the top of the show.
Mimi, congratulations.
Yes. This is so
Oh my
exciting.
100 episodes. First of all, just like deep breaths, like feel it in your bones. Like, congratulations. You really did that shit. Nothing to laugh at. Like, most TV shows don't last 100 episodes. That's fucking crazy.
You're syndicated.
You're syndicated,
Yeah.
baby.
We're going to watch this on TV Land.
Out TV. Let's
on Out TV.
Yes.
There we go.
Licensing deal.
Period.
In and Out TV. Only the freshest ingredients.
Animal style.
I remember sitting on your couch while Florida Man was getting interviewed all those years ago. And, yeah.
And that's back when it was a little like audio podcast that only nerds listen to.
That's true. Now we're cuter. We're in 4K.
There have been so many
1080p,
different, because the first time was like in your living room. It was on your dining room table.
Yes.
And that was like, what, episode like 20 something? Yeah.
Now we're here at the
Beacon Grand Hotel in
sponsored.
downtown San Francisco.
We were literally, me and Celeste came and got me downstairs at the elevator, and the bellman turns to us and goes, Are you here for the podcast?
They know. The people know.
Well, I've been getting better about also talking about it when people ask me, like, who are you? What are you doing? Why do you look like that? Why are you not cold?
Hello, who are you? I'm MeMeCherry from the podcast.
From the podcast. The Bay Area's only podcast.
When I booked the room, I booked it with a note that was like, I'll be checking in with a service animal who was too needy and stayed at home.
We're the service animals.
You're the service animal.
And then I was like, and I'm going to be recording podcasts from my room, so please book me the best one in my rate. Thank you. So I think they're
I know
on
this is swanky.
I got a deal. I got a good deal. I mean, it was literally, I was in the chat with the two of you, and you had mentioned the Phoenix, and I went to go look at the Phoenix, and all their big rooms were sold out, probably because Outside Lands is
Phoenix
this weekend.
isn't the vibe for like. I feel like there's always like background noise. There's always like a
Yeah.
brunch or a party or something happening in the middle of the day. So also, I mean, love the Phoenix, but
Yeah.
this is cute as hell.
Yeah, it worked out. I was like checking, and then I got a really good deal on this. I mean, she loves a deal.
Okay, Mimi, when was the first Poddington? What was number one?
Yeah.
Where were we? Take us back.
You know what's funny is that my ex, Omar Johnson, was texting with me today. We were reminiscing.
As exes often do.
Yes,
Out of
mine.
the woodwork.
Well, because I had given long story short, I'd won an Xbox at work and I had given it to his son.
An Xbox?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he sent me a picture like, oh, redacted son's name still has the Xbox. And I was like, oh, cute. And then I'm like, oh, look, I'm downtown recording for the podcast. And low key, I was like, thank you, because you breaking up with me is what finally, I had been talking about this for so long. Even when I met him, it was part of like my flirting game, was that like I was thinking about having a podcast. Do you want to be a guest on my podcast? Like I was talking a lot about the podcast, to the point that at one point, like he clocked my tea and was like, so when are you going to do it? Because he heard me telling somebody else. And when he broke up with me, I was like, I'm going to show that motherfucker.
Yes.
I'm finally doing my motherfucking podcast.
That's right.
And years later, this is still the Spite podcast.
It's all been about you, Omar.
You know, ideally, he's going to actually be on the pod. Look out for that. I'm trying to book him for the show. Yeah.
Wait, what's that JoJo Siwa meme where she's like, who would be the spiciest guest on my pod? Maybe one of my exes.
I'm going to have to use that.
Dream guest on my podcast? Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, let's spice things up. One of my exes.
Oh.
The
No,
soundbite.
I want to ask him what was amazing about me and what was toxic about me.
Oh, okay. You're going full JoJo Siwa.
Whisper secret
Oh, yeah,
podcast.
this is for the
exactly.
Whisper Pod.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, but what year was that? What year was the first
2017, and it was me
Okay.
and Jonah Bona. That's not his real name, but that's what I called him. My ex-roommate was, I think the first one I did by myself. And then he was like my first guest. And get into it. It's actually in the Patreon.
All the way down.
In the archives. He's got some good story. Find out why I called him Jonah Abona
Oh, God. Dirty.
as my roommate.
Dirty.
What? So the podcast has evolved into like there's a lot of obviously like Bay Area
Yes.
like queer performers and stuff like that. But what was the initial sort of focus? Was that always the vision for it, or did it evolve in that direction? Like, what was the sort of like onus and how has it
Yes.
sort of shifted throughout the years?
Good question. Do you have a podcast? It's interesting. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to have a podcast. I had a podcast many
You're a
years
good
ago.
talker.
Oh, thank you. I have a podcast. Many years. So for the last 20 years, I've been a fan of Keith and the Girl. And they are
like your pod daddy.
Yes, the pod father. And
Father.
yes, and he's like they're both
good.
him and Hamda, who's now retired as a podcaster. Hamda is, but Keith has kept Keith and the Girl going. They started 20 years ago. I was listening to them, and so if 2017 is when SOFE Pod started, maybe reduce that by 5 or so years. And me and a former friend of mine had a little baby podcast called Lube It Up and Stick It.
Oh.
Because I wanted it to stand out. Back then, podcasting was the wild, wild west.
Sure.
And I wanted it to stand out, in the names of podcasts. But speaking of exes, of owning that ex, Rafael, I was on the podcast with Billy back then, the Lube It Up and Stick It, and I was talking about some Vegas story. And I didn't even use his name. I said, Mr. R. And somehow somebody that worked with him where he worked found the podcast, figured out it was him, was clocking his tea, basically, and he demanded that I delete the podcast and quit it. And I did. Yes, I've been trying very hard in therapy to unlearn those patterns.
Your
Yeah.
toxic exes are deep in the history of the SOFE Pod.
Yeah.
Look at my father.
Photo right here.
Insert.
So you had been doing podcasts, but then SOFE Pod was sort of like your
Me trying to do it again.
reclaiming it.
Yes,
Yeah.
reclaiming it. I got the podcasting guide that Keith and the Girl back then used to sell, and I literally downloaded it, printed it, did the homework on it, figured out what the name of the show was. That took a minute.
Wait, let's stop there because
Yeah.
I've always been curious. Are you a big Lemony Snicket fan?
Yes.
You are.
Yes!
It's
I was
actually not a
wondering,
thing
yeah.
that I know about you, but I assume that was a
Yeah.
reference. But
Yes!
why is that the reference?
The why, I honestly could not answer. I think I was just playing with concepts and references, and I liked the idea of flipping it into fortunate events, because now people don't blink anymore. They might get the reference. For the longest time, people would be like, series of unfortunate events. I'm like, no, fortunate events.
Right. It's not nothing, but nothing's ever been related to that.
Never.
It's
never.
Just sort of like
Which I kind of love the
celebrating,
unspoken,
like fortunate, like happenstances of like in the life of MeMeCherry.
Yes, and so it kind of became follow Mimi's adventures through Wonderland, because I consider myself a little bit of Alice in Wonderland. And then it's been little by little, I think it was a little bit of a Venn diagram happening, right? Building around itself, that I was spending so much time in the drag scene. It became a pond with a lot of fish that I could fish out of. And then it kind of became a drag podcast, which it never was supposed to be a drag podcast. And I low-key hated it when people would say that.
Disgusting.
I don't, because and more than anything is because I never wanted to be boxed into one thing. Let's say Drag Race became illegal tomorrow. Like, I wouldn't want to have to be tied to like this concept. And like, I mean, obviously, like, I don't want that to happen. Like, and I do want to believe in my community, but to me, it was always bigger than that. It was more than that.
When you started the pod, who were sort of like the people that you imagine coming on it? Like.
I think back then probably like other podcasters. Like, I think the first time I booked like Keith and Hamda, that was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And now this time around, Rod from The Black Guy Who Tips was on the show. I'm going to be having Nick DeRamio, who's a YouTube creator. So like I'm expanding. I'm going to have a lot of like burlesque and burlesque drag adjacent people. Yeah. So expanding outside of that, having Warren Logan on.
Keep doing this.
You like it when I pet you. Having Warren Logan on to talk about, wanting to run for office, and
just people like making change in the world.
Yeah, it being like if I was gonna do an elevator pitch 2-sentence of what SOFE Podcast is, it's an interesting conversation with an interesting person. I used to say I was the love child of Andy Cohen and Barbara Walters, which A, aged out, and B, is low-key a little problematic now. So.
Well,
so are we.
Ding! What about, like, tell me through the lens of your eyes. Like, what have you seen with me stumbling and bumbling my way through this little thing that I call my glittery pirate ship radio show?
I mean, I'm really I'm glad to see you branching back out, because I do feel like, because just coming from the drag world, like being a drag person who, like, saw the pod, like, I knew that you had like interviewed some really like high level like drag career folks too. So I guess like I had always thought it was that, and the deeper that I've gone into the pod, just like knowing how expansive it is and that you just like touch all these areas.
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying it a lot recently that one of my all-time favorite episodes, and sometimes I feel a little bad because I had both him and his partner on, and his partner's episode was just as...
It sucked.
No, their stories are just as compelling, but they're different. They're very different stories. Like, they both kind of, like, grew up with, like, that repressive gay...
I think I know what you're going to say.
Yes, and, like, they just had very different stories, right? They both had a lot of trauma.
Say a name.
So Finn Deerhart,
that's exactly what I thought.
And Sam Sebastian, and
I think they were the episode right before me.
Well, I met all of you at that rainbow.
At that fundraiser.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I met all three of them at the same fundraiser at Oasis with Paco in my little bag. Oh, shout out Paco, the original co-host of the show. And that's how I introduced myself to you. I introduced myself to them. And I had all of you on at the same time. But Sam's story, like earlier today, I don't think it was on camera. I think it was just after we had wrapped, I was talking to Major Hammy and I was comparing being on the podcast as cutting yourself open and letting yourself bleed emotionally if you're being authentic, which to me, I'm always striving to be authentic, because if it's not authentic, it just doesn't, like, it's not even fun.
I don't think I've ever seen you not be authentic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And even when I've been super messy, I'm still authentic. Yeah. And so when I think, all right, it's Chaser. So Sam's show was the epitome of having somebody across from me who cut themselves open and bled for me on the show, and it just emotionally.
We've brought you some knives as a gift.
How Lindsay Lohan of us. So yeah.
Too vulnerable.
So that's what I mean. It's like, you know, I love that I had Heclina on. You know, I love pulling that flex. I love pulling the flex that Peaches Christ was on, who will be coming back, by the way.
Never mind.
Say it. Do it.
Did you cut her open and she bleed out on camera too? Is that what happened?
Okay.
Yes, it
Well.
was stage blood.
How do we segue?
Well,
Segues.
I have the iPad. Aside from you murdering Heclina, what were some of the challenges that you...
I flew in and out of London.
on death's throw.
Just put a pillow over her head.
Oh no! Delete. Well, this is for the Patreon.
This is
Full autopsy
if you're
report.
listening to this, you're part of the Patreon.
You would've loved
we
it.
cut a little while ago.
R.I.P.
Okay, back to the main show.
Well, what were some of the other challenges that you faced at the beginning?
Oh gosh, I have these visceral memories of walking around DragCon with my little press pass and still having to pay for merch to get queens to talk to me because they would be like, what press? Who are you representing? I'm
That's
like,
so real.
me.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's the $25 entry fee.
For sure.
And like, I remember vividly redacted drag queen who had a table about this big, who literally looked this way. I'm over here. Looked this way as their handler did the transaction. And once the money was exchanged, it was like a robot.
Immediately turned on.
Oh yikes! But you have had
Drag
like some
queens,
people
the
on for.
anti-capitalist
Yeah, for
poster
sure.
children.
So, but to me, like, that's like a struggle. It's like getting recognized, getting people to respect me, getting people to
Sure.
want to spend time with me.
For sure. But you have had like Willem and Bob and like.
And I
like,
chased Willem down literally for 3 years.
For sure.
You know, and Bob was like a happenstance, and I've been trying to get Bob back, and Bob don't even nothing, but Bob's on tour with Madonna, but I still will flex that Bob the Drag Queen was on my podcast
No,
before,
exactly.
before even he had a podcast. He barely even knew what podcasting was when he was on my show.
But like being sort of like one of the first people in this space, like doing
Yeah.
those podcasts with people, like, you know, that had to be difficult, you know, just like
Yeah.
getting your.
Yeah,
validity
and I
in.
mean, even the physicality of it, you know, you've seen me. I'm a one-woman machine, and like I literally
it's impressive.
trek the studio
For sure.
around. I pack it up in a bag, and I've taken it to New York with me. I've taken it to LA. I'm taking it back to LA. I wanna, if it's up to me, I would take this all over the world.
We were talking about, starting things and stopping things. And
Yeah.
Just like before we started filming, and I think because you were asking earlier, like what's our impression looking in. I've always been like some context here. I used to live with Cash Monet, who
Yes.
Celeste worked with for like a good friend of ours. Did you ever have Cash on the podcast?
I've been trying.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned from Cash that has become my like favorite quality that I look for in people is like people who start something and just like continue doing it. And like the fact that we're at 100 episodes, you know what I mean? It's like,
Crazy.
yeah.
I
And you
know.
have stopped and then you have come back to it and revisited it. And it's something that you keep coming back to. And that to me is like incredible.
Yeah,
Nevertheless, she perseveres.
yes. I've been doing these like mini coaching sessions with David Yontef from Behind the Velvet Rope podcast, who's somebody that like stuck with it over the last few years and has really broken through and like made it his career. And you know, when you have an apartment in the Hamptons and an apartment in LA, I want to talk to you because you're doing something right.
For sure.
And so I had a coaching session with him before I kicked off the new season. And he gave me some advice, and some of it was really good, and some of it was like, okay, cool, little nuggets to think about. And now that we launched and we got going, and like I took the time, and I oh my god, I spent so many hours redoing the website.
Well, Celeste doesn't get lit.
I'm fully lit.
I have. Well, you know
She
what?
tried to walk us into the linen closet earlier.
It was just next door.
I have a battery charging, and
heard
it's
Charlie
and
XCX in there. I was
It's almost
confused.
time to swap out to time things out.
Should we take a break?
Yeah, you know what? I think
take a
that's
break.
just the universe saying it's time for a commercial break.
What the hell?
We'll be right back.
Ba-na-na-na-na-na.
This is going to be fun.
Cross this
This is going to be so fun. This is a good time, everyone. Speaking of good times, welcome to Queers on Dice.
It's a fucking dragon. I'm sorry, Captain. Was that a below job or blow job?
We're gay. Do you get it? Did you figure that out yet?
You like to watch.
We're live.
And we're back.
Hi.
With
Hi.
the
Series
of
of
Fortunate
Fortunate
Events
Events
Podcast.
Podcast.
Episode 100, MeMeCherry. If you could close your eyes and imagine yourself in 100 episodes, did you imagine that there'd be two more famous drag queens by your side?
It's us, Willem and Bob the drag
That's
queen.
right.
Just kidding.
Keep it moving before I take it even darker. No, but you know what? I am very. We're gonna go hard pivot. What I'm very, very excited and very, very proud of, and I feel like having high performers like you around inspire me to keep reaching and going above and beyond and keep going and keep going and keep going. And with that in mind, my new Patreon is a thing. It's happening. It's live right now.
This is how you make it to 100 podcast people, is you promote your fucking shit.
Yes. Promote. You walk around with stickers in your pocket and you hand them out anytime you hear somebody that sounds either gay or nerdy. Which was a very Venn diagram at Evie Oddly's book signing.
Also of the SOFE Pod.
Yes.
This is not a microphone. This is
Hi.
Good one. Yeah, scan nerdy.
So, SOFEPod.com/Patreon for your gay and nerdy
What will they
needs.
get? What will?
Thank you for asking, Florida.
I'm curious.
Do you want to know how many tiers there are?
How many tiers are there?
Oh my gosh.
How many tiers are there?
There's 3 tiers, and the names of these tiers are partly inspired by my now little doggo and your nickname for me. So with that in mind, we have a honey tier.
Honey.
What will they get?
Oh, right. Sorry. Wow, this is why you host the podcast, and we are just the pretty faces.
And you all just saw this on the Patreon because we're going to do that all over again. This is Hot Cam. Okay, Hot Cam over. Hi, we're back.
With the series of Fortunate
Events
Events Podcast, episode 100.
Oh my God! How do you get to 100 episodes?
I want to know what the people next to us think is happening.
Oh, they're fine. They're used to murder and
They think we're filming a porno.
pornos and all sorts of things happening in this hotel, I'm sure.
Oh my God. So yes, we're at episode 100 and we're celebrating lots of things. We're celebrating follow through.
Period.
We're celebrating stick to itness.
Stick to
Giggles.
itness, yes.
And we're celebrating trying to survive in late stage capitalism. With that in mind, I would like to invite you, dear watcher and listener, you and you over there. Hey, Bob. Hey, Mary. Hey, Maria. Hey, other person.
Mary and Maria.
Call me out, why don't you? My creativity is tapped out. Even though my creativity is tapped out at this second, have been putting a lot of work into my Patreon.
Cute. Okay, but what kind of tiers are there on your Patreon?
Oh my God, I'm so glad that you asked. I have the cutest and sweetest little tears ever inspired by, and tears is in T-I-E-R, not T-E-A-R. Those are for, actually, that's a different tier.
It's like that Pantene shampoo. It's tear free.
Yes, it's tear free, unless you want us to cry. So
Which we might just do.
I feel like we did better on the first take of this. Should we start over?
Let's do one more.
Let's do one more.
We're producing this podcast now. We're taking over.
Welcome back.
The Groundhog Day. The podcast.
She is the groundhog of the Bay Area.
but the fact that that's all gonna go to the Patreon is kind of
It's perfect.
Well, what are the tiers?
Patreon of the Patreon. What are the tiers?
I'm gonna pee myself. Okay.
Okay, welcome back.
Hold on.
Everyone take a deep breath. Clack.
What are the tears?
Okay, welcome back.
We're back.
With the series of fortunate events.
I think we tried this podcast.
Save the why is the Patreon the best part of this podcast?
Because low key, I am building it and they will come.
Period.
Mama.
MeMeCherry presents a series of fortunate events.
In my crumble opinion, I strongly identify as Zendaya as an Oakland baddie with a twink problem. Boink. Horny jail. The movie Goons. Gooning is to masturbation what Tashi's conception of tennis is and what the boys think tennis is at the beginning of the film. End zone, penetrating the end zone, I don't know, what are some other home run, home base, touchdown, let's punt, rhymes with I don't know. That's fishy to me. And that straight guys are sometimes the most queer. Challengers does for queer theory what Barbie thinks it does for feminism. In my crumble opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, so I think I got lost in the sauce earlier too. I was trying to say that I've been doing my coaching sessions, and coach at the latest session basically was very impressed with all of the work that I've been doing with the website, my approach with it, my approach to the Patreon. What?
There's a
Patreon.
Tell us about the tears. Are there tears?
Yes, there was. I'm going to cry right now. So.
You have not seen that we've done 10 takes of this, so.
Me too. So, let's just get through this and we'll stop. Okay. Anyways, I'm keeping this.
I'm the only one who's drunk here, right?
Yes. That's crazy. I think it's by osmosis at this point. I'm also like low-key a little delirious. I've been like potting and like
For
gymming
sure.
and gymming and like woo.
You're
So
talking about your mentorship series with your friend.
yes. So coach was very proud and Coach David signed off. Basically, Coach said you're on the right track.
Period.
And low-key, like I think he was a little impressed with the website. And
Should be.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Very impressive.
So one of the things that he said I was spot on with is my Patreon.
What's that?
It is. It is a way that you, dear listener and watcher, I love watchers and listeners, can help this little glittery pirate ship radio stay afloat, stay sailing, stay flying. And I am now incentivizing you because I know how humans work. A little incentivizing never hurts. So I have a honey tier.
And what does the honey tier come with?
Thank you. You're going to get a production credit. You're going to get access to the back catalog that's currently being built out. You get access to behind the scenes content like hot cam. And you got
There's a lot of hot cam
You
footage.
got a lot of it out of this episode. Basically cutting room floor footage that used to just stay on the cutting room floor is now going to be part of the Patreon.
And that's just tier number 1.
Wait. And you also
said, "Shut up, Celeste. I'm still going."
Well, that's just amazing. All the things that you got in the first tier.
Oh my God, but you also get one sticker in the mail every 6
Whoa.
months and a little handwritten note from me.
That's so sweet.
So that's the honey tier.
How
Can
sweet.
you believe that there's more tiers than
No.
that?
No.
What else could there possibly be?
What more could there be?
COVID.
The COVID tier.
No, it's the cannabis tier. I'm not drunk, but I am high. So sorry.
You know what? I think we should have a podcast now that we're really doing well.
She's slurring.
So, my my dear drag mother knows that I'm a supporter of the arts in the local scene, and she calls me her azúcar fairy.
That's right.
So in the honor of that, we have a sugar tier.
Sugar mama.
And so in the sugar tier, you go not only get the production credit, the access, the cutting room floor, you get a sticker every 2 months.
That's crazy.
Every 2 months.
Oh.
Can you believe that there's one more tier?
I'm literally crying right now. I have tears to spare.
Ariana Grande, 1 tier left to cry. Oh, God.
I've never had more fun talking about Patreon in my life.
See? That's the feeling that I'm trying to capture. So our last tier we're staying in theme. We have a caramel tier. We take that sugar, we melt it, make it nice and gooey, and get some caramel.
Ooh, some dulce de leche.
And so what do you think people get for the caramel tier?
I'm guessing
night
they get
with
a
MeMeCherry.
You get to become her next hags.
I love this game.
Well, maybe if you interpret one of these benefits, I guess you could. So, in the caramel tier,
At the Beacon Grand Hotel.
Wait, just say it.
So for your caramel tier,
Yes.
not only do you get the production credit, the access to the back catalog, the cutting room floor, a sticker every 2 months. Let's remind you about these cute, gorgeous stickers.
So cute. Adorable.
You get a note with that. You are also going to get what?
I never know.
You're also going to get a t-shirt.
Oh!
Every 6 months, you're going to get, there will be drops, seasonal drops. It'll be available for a limited time. So you have to be signed up at the time that that type of shirt will come out.
So cute.
And last but not least, fan requests. So do you actually want to see me cry on camera? You can request that on Patreon. Do you want to see me get silly with these two gooses like this for another hour, just not editing? Access to Patreon. And I'm also thinking about magnets.
And a magnet.
Maybe magnets.
Maybe magnets.
Maybe
Wow,
magnets.
all those just for the low price of
$3, $6, or $9.
a month? That's it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you. I have a podcast.
What?
And now we're going to take a break while I go fix my makeup because
And I go pee.
literally cried off my makeup and the light just went out.
I
need a break.
have batteries charging.
Okay.
Okay. We'll take a break.
That was incredible. That was that.
That was
a Webby Award winning.
In my crumble opinion. With Sam's work finally done, he can move on, and Sam says his goodbyes. At this point, we're all ugly crying. Sam says, "I love you, Molly. I always have." And bitch, you know what Molly says. She says, "Ditto." Excuse me, I'm getting choked up. And then Sam says, "It's amazing, Molly. The love inside you, you take it with you." And then he walks to heaven. And that's Ghost. Jesus, what a great film. I'm sorry. I'm like actually verklempt. In my crumble opinion.
Hi.
And welcome
Back
to
the series of Fortunate
Events
Podcast.
100 episodes.
We've done that take 100 times.
We are officially in Silly Goose Land.
Yeah, we've lost control. But maybe that's what SOFE Pod's all about.
It low-key is. If there isn't a tangent, it's not SOFE Pod.
Absolutely.
If there isn't a giggle fit, it's not SOFE Pod. If there aren't at least a little bit of tears, it's not SOFE Pod.
And you have 3 tiers. Do you want to explain those tiers?
Yes!
We can't do this again. We can't do the Patreon. Go to our Patreon for us giggling for no reason about the Patreon. No sense. I can't. MeMeCherry,
Okay,
tell us
let's go past Patreon land.
about your vision for the next 100 episodes? What are we gonna see? How are
Good
we
question.
growing the pod eternally and evermore?
I'm glad you asked that because I do have a heavy hand and I did hurt myself a little bit. So there's one word for the future for SOFE Pod that I'm trying to manifest. It's not penis. It's growth. Although,
Damn it, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
although growth, I guess, could be misinterpreted. But no, growth. I want to grow. Oh no! Oh, we're gonna be here all day. This is too much.
Yes, growth. Oh God, we've lost it. Okay, growth. That sounds great. Oh,
What do you mean by growth?
I want it to be like this little plant here, and I want it to find the light, and I want it to grow.
It's made of plastic.
No, it's not.
no, it's not.
This is
Oh, it's
real.
real. It's real. It's real.
Don't talk about me like that. No, but growth. I want to reach new audiences. I want to reach new guests. I want to collaborate with people. I want to collaborate with artists for merch. I want to collaborate with people to help me produce, special episodes. I want to do the partner and the performer, little mini series that I want to do. There's a lot of things that I want to do. I just want to keep doing this.
In 2024, I feel like, well, I don't know. I don't really know anything about podcasts, but I feel like podcast was like not really in the zeitgeist, and then it was like such a thing. Like everyone had a podcast,
Yeah.
and now where are we? Like within like
So
where podcasts are?
yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you asked that because that's where the follow through and the resilience for me, I think, is a thing. And like even though I've been inconsistent, I've still been somewhat consistent, and I've stuck it out. And like you said, like not just like TV shows, podcasts. Like a lot of podcasts don't last past 2-3 years. Most 90% of podcasts don't make money. This is very much a self-funded passion project. It always has been. I hope it won't be forever, which is why we have the Patreon. Thank you.
Forgetting
I love trained little seals.
That was better than what I was gonna do. So.
But yeah, I just want to keep sticking with it because right now a lot of like very famous people got podcasts. Maybe like 2 years ago there was like another explosion, and a lot of those people already are not doing those podcasts anymore. And so
Name. No, don't.
Teresa Giudice of like the Housewives. She had a podcast with like a friend of hers, and they fell out, and she doesn't do it anymore. Now she's doing it with her slimy husband. So, and that one's gonna fail too. Anyways, sorry.
I don't follow the Housewives like that, but I believe you.
Yeah, slimy cisgender men.
So perseverance. Yes.
Yes.
Growth.
Yes, growth. Yeah. I just want to be able to keep doing it. I think is like the ultimate, and that's one of the things that Coach told me is that he can see that I just love it. I love it. Trying to learn from the Major Hammy episode that you're gonna see after this. I don't care. We sang it a lot. Yeah.
Who are some of your dream guests?
Ooh. I really want to delve into like reality show people a bit, and I've been
They don't
like,
have anything else going on.
yeah, so I've been emailing a lot of them. I get a lot of non-responses. I get some like not right now, but down the line. But that would be great just to like tap into that. There's a new show on OWN produced by Carlos King. It's like a Houston something real estate. But it's about a family who they own like a luxury real estate business, and they're like, for Black people to do that in Texas is like a huge deal. Most of them, it's like, low income housing is like the kind of real estate that they're known for. And it's like this multi-generational like mogul family. So I slid into their, like, they have like a family account for the show. So I slid into the DMs and I was like, I want to have the sister cousins on the show. Cute. So, I just want to reach new people. I want new heights. I want to touch new people.
Take it on tour, like you said.
Yes. Taking it on tour would be a
MeMeCherry
dream.
will touch you.
for a price of $9 a month. On your
It could be a fan request. I can write it on your note. If the note that you get every 2 months or every 6 months, I can say I'm touching you.
With consent.
Yes, you have to request it.
Consent is extra.
Yeah, you have to request it.
Sorry, that was terrible.
Consent is for the tier that doesn't exist. No, it always exists.
No, cut this.
It's a joke. It's a joke. But yeah, no, and I want to be surrounded by love. I want to be surrounded by joy. I want to keep celebrating the voices around me. I want to keep being a little time capsule like I have been. I feel like that's another thing. When I think about SOFE Pod, I think of a time capsule.
That's wild.
We're just going to keep going.
Just gonna keep going. The lights keep going out. What do you think you said 2017?
That's when I started.
So what do you think the impact has been between the last 100 episodes and now?
On me?
Sure. You, the world. What has SOFE Pod brought into the world?
I think it's brought voices to the forefront that you wouldn't necessarily have on a medium like this. So like when I think of a Sam Sebastian, I think of somebody like that, or like my old roommate Jonah, his crazy stories. Like those stories don't happen anywhere else but in a podcast. Like you just don't get that on even a reality show.
The lore.
Yeah.
The lore.
Come on, Canon. Did I use it right? I never know if I'm using it right.
I mean, it's still filming.
It is.
It's a canon.
Boom, boom.
Clever girl.
What if each of you could manifest something for me? What would be a guest and or accomplishment that you would want to see SOFE Pod do and or be or see?
Some really good lights.
I know. I invested in a new system and like I did not try it out ahead of time, which was like my bad.
You're such a bitch.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Clock me, diva.
No, I want you to have support. I think that's real. It's like it would be so nice if you had. I know at various points
this is a
there's
one
been
person machine.
Assistance like floated through the MeMeCherry, and I saw you that like you were posting about like looking for people to join like the Pod Network. I've also always gonna be excited about the Dad Network when that happens. Spoilers.
Are we saying it?
I don't know. You gotta manifest thing. You gotta put things out in the universe.
That's the one that I've been scared to talk about, but I guess so. I guess I should manifest it. So a couple of years ago, during like pre-post Oaklash Madness, I had this like idea, and I think it was talking to Beatrix, if I remember correctly, just like probably before I chose sobriety, and we were just both litty lit, just having like these stupid late night conversations. And I was like, oh my God.
That's how the best ideas happen.
I know, they really do. And I was like, you know how Willem and Alaska have the Mom Network, Moguls of Media? I was like, well, what if up here in the Bay Area we have Dad? And it...
Ding Dongs After Dark.
You're not entirely wrong.
And it became drag artists doing shit. So dads, kind of, dad or dads. And I want to start like a little network, and like ideally like me and the Cakes and like the Queers on Dice. And I've been trying to like, I've been whispering it into ears, trying to see if anybody bites, because I think the linchpin, even though I think it would be hilarious that I would be the face of Dad, I think ultimately the linchpin is a Drag King podcast, because it's not out, there isn't one really out there. And so
Hotel used to do their, I don't know if they still do this, but they had like a horror movie review podcast that was super cute.
Yeah.
And Hammy's on Queers on Dice.
Yeah.
But
for one of them to like have their, like, I would love to help produce.
Well, right.
a
I feel
Drag
like
King
that's what
podcast.
I mean, you just have so much experience and like wisdom, like working in the field, but also like putting these things on. Like, I feel like you are just such a resource to the community, and also like thank you for like sharing all these amazing stories over the years that we wouldn't otherwise know.
Yeah.
And like so generous to like not just with the podcast but in general, like with your time, like the way that, I mean, you're the volunteer coordinator for Oaklash. Anytime, and it's not just with the two of us, I know because I've seen you do it with others as well too. Anytime anybody needs help with anything, you're the first person to jump in and, you know, come and stone something, help make something happen. Like the way that you are so invested in making things happen is like incredible.
Putting in the work.
Yeah.
I've had this saying for a while that you have to feed the garden that you want to eat out of.
Mm-hmm.
You can't grow a garden that can sustain you if you're not properly watering and feeding those plants.
And you can feed those plants
At the
through our
Patreon!
Why? We love the Patreon here. This is
Come water her plants.
That is the real star of the 100th episode of there's the fourth. It's like the
glad.
Sex and the City, like fourth character.
It's New York City. Patreon is New York City. I like that thread. I'm going to start saying that. My Patreon is New York City.
And just like that, you subscribe to the Patreon.
Ooh.
That's right.
Ding.
Ding. Right down here. Link over here.
Right here. Wait, is it here? No, is it here?
Ah!
Is it here? It's here. No, it's here. It's here.
100 episodes of Mimi. We're so proud of you.
Me?
What a fucking accomplishment. Yeah, you're a superstar. You really do. Just like put in the damn work. So can you say that for yourselves? Internet, you're sitting at home jerking off watching us.
If you
they
were
are.
going to pick one episode to share with a new listener, like you know somebody in your life, you want to introduce them to SOFE Pod, what's the episode besides the one that you have been on
Well,
that you would?
I guess both of
Okay, Narcissus 1 and Narcissus 2. What is an episode? Like, would it be each other's podcasts?
No.
I love boundaries.
I mean, for me personally, because my relationship with you has been like, in relation to the podcast, has been about this like time capsule element of just seeing people, like the check-ins that you have with people throughout the years, right? Like for context, like our first episode was like 3 weeks into me doing drag for the first time, so she's seen the entire evolution of that. So
yeah, I
I'd
always
probably-
say I had baby Florida man.
Yeah, so I would say anybody that you have interviewed multiple times throughout the years and sort of doing a progression of that, because I think that to me is a very exciting thing.
So you do pick mama.
yeah, exactly. So it shows both your growth and their growth, which I think is such a like thing that you do.
Yeah.
I would have to say the one with me. No, I mean, it's such a special pod because you really do just like, you know, I think of the way that like Phoebe kind of started doing her visual pod, and it was very like in drag, in character, and then I feel like you really brought it to the like kiki of it all, just like bringing people into this space. So I think like that first era of like you doing the visual pod, where it was just like, I don't know, just like drag queens like hanging out or drag performers like hanging out of drag and just like talking about their real authentic experiences. Like I think that era was so special, and post COVID and all these like new babies coming on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the cakes, because I was in retirement and I did not think I was going to bring it back. And I low-key got a little jealous. And I was like, I want to play with my friends too.
For sure, but I mean, it's such a different thing because it's
No,
always
but they did inspire me to bring it back.
Yeah.
And they did inspire me to step my pussy up. And they did inspire me. Like, I remember at one point we were somewhere and somebody said something like, almost like, oh, like as if I was the new kid back on the block with the podcast. And you were quick. You were like, you better recognize Miss Mimi has been doing this for a long time.
Literally, you're an OG of like podcasting. Period. Like you've been here.
You know where the term podcast comes from?
From the peas that we water with our pee, and then the casts that we when we fall and we repair our.
And then we have somatic yoga after.
On Patreon. No, it's about iPods.
Yeah.
It's a reference to iPods because they were originally.
That's how you could you would listen to them before.
Right,
you would
iPod
download them onto your iPod.
Broadcast is like the.
And so what was the first iPod like?
It was about
and more
this
importantly,
big.
the Xbox.
I had the one where the wheel turned, and I remember it was such a big deal when the wheel stopped turning and
Did
it
iPods
became a
with the
touch
touchscreen
button.
Always have podcasts? Did it always have?
So
radio
podcasts
shows?
were a thing that were tied to iTunes for a long time, and very much an iPod thing.
Were there no podcasts before?
So podcasts
radio.
literally started 20 years ago. Keith and the Girl were not the first, but they were one of the first. And back then, it was a lot of like technical stuff. Like Dan Carlin's history one was like a big one back then that's probably still around. And I think he ended up doing like all kinds of different spin-offs. I remember I first got started into podcasts. I was living in Sterling, Virginia. I had run to go live with my mom because my ex Rafael had traumatized me after I walked in on him sleeping with somebody else.
More ex stories. All roots to the pod.
Yes. And I was living in Sterling, Virginia, commuting to go work at Countrywide Home Loans. And I found this thing called podcast that would fill the time because you had a boring desk job. And the first podcast that I ever listened to was a Bravo podcast about Make It Work, Project Runway.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Project Runway podcast, like a post-show podcast where what's his face, who was the host, would just ramble. And then I started, Tim Gunn. And then I found Podcast Alley, which had like a ranking of like the most popular podcasts at the time. And I found Dawn and Drew, and through Dawn and Drew, I found Keith and the Girl. And once I found Keith and the Girl, I found community. But I also grew a lot in that community. Like, we were old school little internet punks that would like have weird little chat parties and bully each other. And I was young, hot, and pretty, and like I would get bullied a lot in that group. And there was a team that would call themselves Team Hater, and they would purposefully bully me. And like it was like a whole storyline. But I learned a lot of lessons through that. I learned how to not be so attached to the internet. I learned that the internet is not real. It's not the real world. I learned to, although now at this point I've lost the plot and started using my government name, but mostly to have an alias. And that I never wanted to build that kind of community. I never wanted to, even though we've bullied each other here tonight, like jokingly, it's all out of love. Like, I don't think I would never, I don't think you're jealous of me. And like, that was low key some of the feelings of like other people that I've encountered along the way. And so I love that now I'm around people that celebrate me and love me, and I don't have to make myself smaller. I don't have to make myself into something I'm not. You know, you inspire me to be bigger, bolder, louder.
Take that, the people next door. Should we just start making sex noises?
A podcast.
That's your sex noises?
That's my safe word.
Listen to my podcast. Honey tear. Caramel.
Let me honey all over you, my honey.
And with the future of pods, like, tell us more about the Whisper Pod.
Ooh, thank you for asking. So, and that's actually, I'll show a little bit of the sausage being made in terms of...
Oh, the sausage.
Gross. So, one of the things that I had been talking about with my coach and that I have been trying to unlock for the longest time, even before I started SOFE Pod, I for the longest thought that I needed a co-host. That's why it took me a long time also to even just start doing the show. Having guests was a journey in itself. And so I've had this goal of unlocking solo content. And with that, this idea of, it was actually born at the end of the Oaklash debrief pool party when the Straights took over the pool and Careless Whisper was blasting. And I started singing Careless Whisper to Charles. And then the next day while I was walking my dog, I kept singing Careless Whisper to myself. And then I started talking to ChatGPT, and I was like, hey, Chat, what do you think of like a podcast called Careless Whisper? And blah, 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 and da-da-da. And then I was like, hey, Chat, what do you think about the trademark? And Chat was like, well, how about these other names? And so then the Whisper Lounge as a name and a concept was born.
Yeah.
And what is the Whisper Lounge, you
What is
ask?
it? Read my mind.
Something about George Michael is all you've told us so far.
So if you go to sofepod.com/whisper, you're going to find a little link where you can click it and you can send me your whispers, aka your secrets, anonymously. You can send it via text. You can send it via voice note. You can send me a PDF file. You can send me a video. I don't care. Just send me your little secrets and I will be very, very gentle and safe with them, because you're safe. Your secrets are safe with Mimi.
And you will also broadcast them on the internet. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yes,
Gently.
and.
They'll be gently
With
broadcast.
love.
Gently broadcast.
With love.
With love.
But no.
You're trying to be the form spring of the pod.
Mhm.
Well, to me, I was trying to think of something that goes across genders, ages,
Ask FM.
everything.
Secrets.
It's like, yes, everybody has a secret.
Ooh.
Most people are voyeuristic in one way or another, whether they want to expose themselves or see other people expose themselves. And the anonymous aspect, you have a little secrecy and safety in the anonymous. You know the word.
Yes.
Anomalous.
What is
Anomalous.
do you have a secret?
Well, you have to save it for the Whisper
Yeah.
Pod. You can't give it up here.
Exclusively on no, that one's not on Patreon.
But that's the best part of the Whisper Lounge, is that, like, low-key, some of these things could be my secrets, but because we're not,
But we'll never know.
You would never know.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's really like a long form, like mystery pod
Confession.
where you confess to the murder of.
my vagina. So yeah, that's the Whisper Lounge. I'm just trying something new. It's the new little baby.
fun.
Yeah. And again, for like sausage aspects, making of it all, when you think about like content production, I'm trying to feed the algorithm, because the algorithm is nice to you when you're nice to it. And I figured something like the Whisper Lounge would be easy to cut into like 1 minute reels
yeah.
Sure.
and feed the algorithm.
That's the future. Maybe that's the future.
Yes, exactly. You got it. Ooh, I should have an artist make a Seymour algorithm hybrid
Ooh, dirty.
For the merch.
Yeah, exactly.
for the merch.
For the whispers.
For the patrons.
Secrets.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think of that idea?
Well, I don't have any secrets. I'm an open book.
But what do you think of the idea as an idea?
I think people are sluts and I want to hear about it.
Yeah, exactly. I love hearing people's secrets.
Yeah.
And especially when I don't have to get my hands dirty. So
I know that's
yeah.
right. So yeah, SOFEPod.com/a-whisper.
People can submit their secrets to you to be published on the internet anonymously.
Yeah.
Anonymously.
Phenomena. So with that, we're going to take one last little commercial break. I'm going to try to get some lighting going for our last little section. And then that'll be the
100th episode.
Yes, oh my God.
Yeah, bye.
We'll be right back.
Xbox. We're doing great. Let's start a podcast.
Spill the tea with us in the Whisper Lounge. We've got little tidbits, the sweetest secrets, and maybe even a few laughs waiting for you. Got something fun to share? Well, send it on over. Because here, we love a good story. And your secrets are always safe with Mimi. SOFEPod.com/whisper.
Yeah. I get the glittery jacket. You get the glittery microphone.
And you
Celeste
get the
gets
glittery
body.
suit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Glitter tits.
We're back.
Or what?
With
Where?
the series.
Fortunate
Events
Podcast episode
100.
100. That was nice. There was a little harmony in there.
125,000.
600 minutes. MeMeCherry, this has been
Mother.
such
Flory.
such a treasure being your best friend and also with Florida Man here.
And noted performer Florida Man.
It's literally in the ChatGPT notes. It says, with my favorite person, Mama Celeste. Also Florida Man.
What's been your favorite part of this particular episode?
Having Florida
Looking
here.
back on where we were just an hour ago, did you ever think that you would get to be here right now?
Yes. Yes, because you're two of my most favorite people in the world.
Aww.
And I know that I show up for
Well,
you
listen.
and you show up for me. And I am not going to start crying.
Oh,
I love you two so much, and you're two very different people. And like, I know that like you are very much like me, that you're very raw to the world. And sometimes like you need a minute. And like, I give you your minutes. And so the fact that you're here with me right now means so much to me, because I know that, you know, it's not it's not always your jam. You know what I mean? And like, I know that you're doing it for me, and like, I appreciate you for that. And you, I adore you. I love you. You're my if I mean, I want to find somebody that I can love half as much as I love Mama, because they're going to be in for Do you want to date me?
Exactly half as much.
No, but I'm I'm trying to put myself out there. My breakup earlier this year like really did a number on me. And I took time to just focus on community. It's not funny. It is.
It's the 5th X to make it into the podcast.
Yeah, trend alert.
Trend alert. X's.
That do a number on me, and then I somehow, like a phoenix.
Listen, you said at the start of this that you want SOFE Pod to be where we break open, we let out our truest selves, we cry, and we certainly all shed tears today. Mostly about the Patreon.
The what?
The Patreon. For only $3 a month, you too could get a sticker.
Every 6 months.
Yes. Well,
Or.
yes. Or for $6, you can get a sticker every 2 months. Or for $9, you can get a sticker every 2 months and a t-shirt. And fan requests. Do you want to see me cry some more? You can pay me.
Period. This has been so fun, Mimi. This is such a treat. It's always a treat being on the pod. Florida, please tell us, how does ChatGPT say that we should end this podcast?
ChatGPT says it's time for a trivia game.
Oh, good.
So podcast trivia.
Oh.
I'll ask a question about a past episode or guest, and you both have to guess the answer.
Oh, good.
Actually, I think this is you that's supposed to ask this.
I'll try it. Oh, no. Let's do it.
Example, which guest shared a hilarious story about their first drag performance?
Is that what it says?
No.
Oh.
Not, well.
As an example.
Yeah.
I think that was it, like softly prompting me, and I don't think I fully fleshed it out.
All right. Well, do you want to ask a question on our podcast episode for us to guess?
Ooh. Okay.
We love a game. Florida and I just got really excited.
Well, you know the answer to this one because you were at the pageant, but you were not at the pageant, and that live show footage has not come out yet.
Which pageant?
So for my live
MeMeCherry,
show, I hosted a live show pageant extravaganza experience, delightful, da-da-da, pa-pa-pa, ta-ta-ta.
That'll be episode 200. We'll finally release
probably
that one.
500.
Yeah.
And as part of the pageant, one of the questions that I asked is, who's my favorite drag queen?
Oh, I know the answer to that.
Go ahead.
I mean, your favorite drag queen is Willem.
Good job.
Yeah.
You were the only other one that got it.
Yeah, Willem is your number 1, Celeste is your number 2, and I'm your number 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know that. Wait, I'm feeling a trend.
You asked me, do you remember what game we played on our first episode?
Ooh. Was it Dragtionary?
I think it might have been. It was from Celeste.
Yes!
Yeah.
Trend alert Willem. Mm-hmm. Yes. Who's the first No, okay, I'm not going to go there. For the Patreon, I was going to say, who was the first guest that died?
Oh, God. Could be anybody.
Is there more than one?
There's just one. Rest in peace, Heklina.
What if this is how someone finds out? It's us giggling morbidly about it.
You know what? That's the one thing I don't feel guilty about. If anybody would love this, it's fucking Heklina.
Yeah. I think about her a lot. I actually
do
really
too.
miss Heklina a lot.
Yeah, so she was
Does a
Heckles.
lot.
She was Heckles for a reason. Who is the guest least likely to come back on the show?
Do you know the answer to this?
I have a feeling.
So did we save this for the Whisper Pod? That feels scandalous.
No.
Wait, least likely to come on the pod, and she's not dead.
No, come back.
Oh yeah, Glina.
Besides the dead one. Who else is not going to come back on the show? This is fun.
I feel like there's tea here that I don't know.
Oh my god.
We should never have even.
My guess is gonna be just because you alluded to it earlier is Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
100 more episodes.
You never know.
Just think
Yeah.
where you'll be
Yeah.
by episode 200. Bob the Drag Queen will be clamoring.
I would have said me because you've been trying to get me back for so long.
You're here.
But you're here.
You did make it back.
I did.
Yeah.
And who's the guest that you would least like to come back on the pod?
Ooh.
I'm starting to start some shit.
I just backed out of something with them. We'll leave
And
it
you'll
at
only
that.
find this out. Then we'll
On the
cut for
Patreon. Yeah, and it's just, and only because it was like pulling teeth a little bit. And those are really hard when you don't. I've learned you need a
We're
you need
giving
a
our energy to
gabber.
people who give us our energy back.
Yeah, and that's really mostly because of that. It just was like a really, and I think at that time, they were not in their persona yet. They were a very look-based persona, but they were not necessarily a personality-based persona.
Ooh, clues. Okay,
And
I
think,
like this game all of a sudden.
And I think that in
How many
over
syllables?
Is it bigger than a bread box?
I think over time they have found their persona. I think it would be interesting to revisit it, but I don't think they would be the best return guest.
I can't wait for you to tell me who this is off camera.
Somebody who I just did something with.
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah.
Well, cut that because tea.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But there's many people in many things.
And
Oh, I'm gonna be bad at this one. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I had nothing. I was just gonna say words until they made sense.
And
This one's a memory game, and as we all know, I have no memory.
I don't either. I'm a goldfish.
So match the moment. Well, I think you have to describe the memories. You'll describe a memorable moment, and we have to guess which episode or guest it was. I don't think we're gonna guess which episode, but having us guess which guest it was might be a fun one.
Ooh.
The one who farted when everyone was sitting on their couch.
Lena.
That was so embarrassing.
Oh my god. You know, memorable. Low key trying to book a guest for years and years and years, and finally booking them. And oh my god, it was such a nightmare too, because it was, again, I'm a one-person machine, and I have learned
A one-girl revolution.
Yes, I've learned to test my equipment, partly and because of episodes like this where like the audio was so fucked up and it broke my heart, but I just cobbled it together and was like, here's my episode with redacted. Can you guess?
Were they on a TV show?
Yes.
I was gonna guess Willem for this one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because it seems like that's the one that you would have wanted to have gone as well as possible, and then there was.
And of course, it's the one that like all the tech issues happen.
Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes.
It'd be like that. I mean, hello.
I'm good at this game.
I think this feels good.
Yeah,
I think this feels great.
I think this feels incredible.
100
I
episodes.
think you feel great.
You touched us.
In many ways. And for $9.99.
It's just $9, not even $99. $9.
Period.
9 even. 369. I like those numbers.
369 ass. So
369
fine.
party girl. Come along.
Very different reference. There.
Patreon. Bumping that.
MeMeCherry.
Ooh, that's a dream guest.
Charlie?
Yes.
Or Kamala Harris.
No.
Yeah, same. What's the difference?
Charlie XCX, definitely dream guest. Chapol Roan, definitely a dream guest. Little cutie Sabrina Carpenter, dream guest for sure. Like all the little pop girlies that I'm hyper focused on right now would be amazing.
Well, we've actually already answered a lot of these other ones. What are your hopes and dreams moving forward for the podcast?
Blah, blah, blah. Hopes and dreams, blah, blah, blah.
Yada yada.
Blah, blah,
Yada
blah.
yada.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah.
A lot of yada yada.
Blah, blah.
What if we ended like that?
No, we can't end the 100th episode like that. Say
No.
something salient.
Yeah, any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share to our listeners?
I love that there are listeners. I want you. Okay, how serious? Do you want me to be silly or do you want me to be serious?
Serious.
Okay, I won't be silly. I want you to chase your dreams just like I have dared to chase mine. And even if you go for the moon and land in the stars, at least you're surrounded by stars.
Oh, go be a chaser.
No, we're not chasers around here.
No. We venerate and respect
Yes,
the people that we fetishize.
We put them on pedestals.
That's right. Mimi, what a pleasure. Thank you for having us. 100 episodes deep. You should be very proud. Is this where we get the balloons and pop some champagne about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone get them.
Yeah.
Go, Florida, go.
Yeah.
Whee! Wait, but which way does it go?
We end up with
This,
001.
or is it the other way?
I know I hold a 0. It's
I
you
hold a
two.
one.
You're
that-
definitely a 0. Let's just get both, just in case. Okay, 100. Woo!
I don't care.
And then let's do it the other way, just in case.
Because sometimes cameras are
Because
mirrored.
we don't know how
Oh,
to
I see.
100.
I love that you turned the 0.
Okay, thank you for coming to the 100th episode of the
series
Cherry's
of
Fortunate Events Podcast. You can find us on anywhere that good podcasts are found, or bad podcasts also. And you can go to our
Only where bad
Patreon, or you can go to the
podcasts are
SOFEPod.com. You can find me on Instagram at Mama Celeste Fan Club.
And I'm trying to not be seen, so don't look me up.
And this has been MeMeCherry's series of Fortunate Events Podcast. 100 more episodes. 100 more episodes. 100 more episodes. Okay, we're gonna get out of here.
Bye. Say bye.
Oh, bye.
We got those tips. There we go. Thank you. Bye.
Lena?
We can do it now.
More like my ex's dog. You
You're welcome, Omar.
You want to get back together? You can fuck me in my Xbox?
MeMeCherry.